I would say that I consider myself to be one who really enjoys the kind of trying to evoke emotions in the audience, trying to surprise or amuse the audience, and trying to figure out odd combinations of things, trying to figure out some kind of interactions between game mechanics to make those experimental or surprising games. Hello, I'm Abitekari. I'm a Finnish game developer based in Helsinki. I've been making video games for 18 years, 17 years at this point. For many of my experimental games, they follow a very similar format where they have some kind of a classic video game structure. Many of them are platformers, or actually I think almost all of them are platformers. So games like Mario, where you jump and move on the horizontal axis. And then my thought process was that I wanted to make a simple game that takes this basic concept, this Mario-like platformer movement, and adds some kind of a twist to it. So the experimental part was the kind of a additional twist, and to highlight this fact where there's like a common or familiar basis with some kind of an additional odd thing added on top, I often made the games remind the player of those classic games. For example, I made a game that is a platformer, but where the time moves backwards. So you start from the finish line and move backwards in time towards the beginning of the game. And because the basic gameplay was very traditional and the twist was the moving backwards in time, I intentionally made the game look slightly like Mario to evoke that kind of surprise in the player, where the player can see that, oh, this is similar to other games I've played, but there's this additional experimental twist that kind of changes everything. Well, usually what I enjoyed most, as mentioned, I really enjoy it when I can make games that surprise or amuse the player. So for me, usually the funniest part or most enjoyable part was implementing that twist when I could kind of imagine in my head the audience reaction. Many of these experimental games were very short because the twist was something that I felt maybe wouldn't support a larger game, but would be fun to see for a moment. For example, I made a game called Fall Over, which is again a platformer, but with the added twist that the player character has physics in the way that they can fall over, which is not usually seen in those kinds of games. And you have to get back up when you fall over. And I felt that idea maybe wouldn't be very enjoyable for a longer game, but it would be very fun for a short game. So I concentrated on that, made a short game, and had a lot of fun implementing that basic system, because I didn't have to worry about making a multiple hour experience that had to work all the way through. I could concentrate on surprising the player for a short amount of time, and that allowed me to concentrate on the idea I had, but also have more fun with the development. I'm a big fan of game jams. Game jams are events where people gather together to make games in some kind of a time limit or some kind of other limitation. And usually there's some kind of a theme to follow. And the most common format for a game jam is that you have to make a game in 2 days, in 48 hours, following some kind of a theme. One of my favorite game jams I've been participating in for several years is Nordic Game Jam, which at least used to be the largest game jam in the world. It's held in Copenhagen every year. And in 2017, I was participating in Nordic Game Jam. And over the years, I've been participating in Nordic Game Jam since I think 2011 or 2012, and I've only missed 1 year. And I was actually going there on 2017 more to meet my friends and to kind of have a good time instead of maybe concentrating very hard on making a game. Because usually at the game jam, because you have such a tight time limit, you want to concentrate quite hard on the game if you want to make something more substantial. But I had existing projects. I was not maybe feeling very... I wasn't feeling very energetic in a way that I felt would have been good for making a game quickly. So I hadn't mentally prepared anything for the game jam. Then I heard the theme. Nordic Game Jam doesn't require people to follow the theme very closely. It's more of a suggestion. And the theme was not there. And when I heard the theme, I kind of considered those two words. And I started thinking of the word not specifically. And I started thinking of how in logic games or logic in general, you can have something, some kind of a concept, and reverse its meaning by saying not that. So you, for example, you can say happy, and then you can say not happy to reverse the meaning of happy. Mm-hmm. And that kind of this thought combined in my head with some other games that I had played over the years, mainly puzzle games. And I had tried to make a puzzle game for a long time. I really enjoy puzzle games. But over the years, I had run into some design problems in many puzzle games I had tried to make. And I had been heavily inspired by games such as Stephen's Sausage Roll, made by Stephen Lavelle, or many puzzle games such as Cosmic Express or A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, made by Alan Hazelden. And these puzzle games had inspired me, but as mentioned, I had many times run into trouble when trying to make my own puzzle games because I didn't really know how to get a good basic idea for the puzzle game. And the inspiration from these games bubbled kind of in my head when I was considering this not there theme. Mm-hmm. And after some consideration, I got this mental image of a game where there would be a pool of lava. The game would be kind of like a Sokoban, these classic games where you push blocks around, you move in a grid. So I had this mental image of a grid where there is a pool of lava and blocks of ice, and you can push these blocks of ice around. But if they come close to the lava, because the lava is hot and the ice is cold, the ice melts. But you could say ice is not melt to make the ice actually survive the lava. That is kind of the basic idea I had. This kind of push blocks, there's ice, there's lava, and you can say ice is not melt. And when I got this first idea, I wasn't very certain about how good it would be. So I was actually fairly certain that this idea would either not be very fun to play or it would be annoying to implement in just 48 hours. But because one of the nice things about game jams is that you can try something out, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter. You will spend 2 days of your life on it, and if it doesn't work, you can just let it go and concentrate on something else. You don't really have to make some kind of a very polished piece or spend a lot of time and energy on something that doesn't work. So I decided that, well, sure, I'll do a prototype of this idea. I'll try to implement it. If it doesn't work, that's fine. I can just move on and return to my existing projects. So I started working on a prototype, and it ended up working much better than I was expecting. And that's where Babaizio was born. I had a hunch that Babaizio would be fairly popular because already at Nordic Game Jam, well, Babaizio was voted the best game of the jam, and later there is a website called Warp Door that posts on social media and on their website about various new indie games. They kind of search the internet for new releases and post about them so that more people see them. And they made a post about Babaizio, and Babaizio got a surprisingly high amount of attention from there. And there were a couple of streams of people playing Baba Is You, the game, the version I made for the game jam, where people were really interested in the game. So, and over the years after I started development of the full version, I showcased the game at a couple of events, and it also participated in some competitions. For example, the game Independent Games Festival game development competition, and people were really excited about the game in those events. So I had multiple points of evidence that people found the idea exceptional or interesting, and that gave me kind of trust that the game would be successful, that the idea was so good that people would find the game interesting. But I did worry about the game's success a little bit, especially very early on in the development. For example, I wasn't sure if I should make the game look kind of a conventionally good, if I should, for example, have very high quality art, 3D assets, some kind of a very smooth gameplay, if I should have a very kind of a detailed story, if I should make the audio very HD. Basically, I was worrying that the game wouldn't succeed on its own with just the idea if I don't also kind of wrap the idea around these systems that people usually associate with high quality games. But after considering these things for a moment, I felt that it would be easier for me if I did the game my way, if I kind of did the game in a way that feels most comfortable for me, instead of picking a way that is maybe less comfortable for me personally. So I decided, for example, to do the music and audio on my own. I decided to do the art on my own and pick a less detailed style instead of a more detailed, maybe 3D style. This was also because I felt that if I did things on my own and if I picked this less detailed style, I would be able to get things done faster. I wouldn't, for example, have to learn how to use 3D tools, so that was also a factor. But basically, I decided to take a gamble to kind of hope that the idea is so good that even if the game doesn't have those HD features, people will still enjoy it. And I'm happy that this gamble turned out to be correct. For sure, I would imagine that many of those kinds of standards are something that I might not know or realize myself entirely. I really care about the emotions of the player. I want to make games that evoke the emotions that I seek or that I'm interested in. I think that is something that drives a lot of my development. So for me, when I see someone play a finished game, I usually want to make a game that in some way surprises the player and makes them kind of maybe laugh in surprise or get amused. And especially with these experimental games with a twist, I usually wanted to get the twist right and wanted to concentrate on how the twist is introduced so that it has the highest chance of having this surprising effect. Also, I would say that I usually enjoy doing things on my own, as could be seen in Baba Is You, because this is maybe less about some kind of a design philosophy, but I personally enjoy it a lot when I'm taking care of as many things as possible, because it means that if I have some kind of an idea that I want to try, I can decide myself what kind of an approach to choose. I can show it to testers and other people can give me feedback on how well they think it's working, but I can then adjust the idea on my own without having to compromise between multiple people's ideas. Do things my own way or on my own, then I can just say that, oh, I made a bad decision, that's on me, that's my fault, and I will be the only person suffering, or almost the only person suffering at least. I feel that gives me a little bit more freedom in the design process in some ways. I would probably say that I'm in a school of thought where the definition of a game in general is very free form. I know that there are a lot of people, there's been a lot of debate about what is a game in the first place. I would say that personally for me, anything that is somehow interactive is pretty much a game. And also when it comes to the definition of a good game, I would probably be in the school that has a very wide, shall we say, definition of a good game. So I would say that my definition of a good game is a game that people enjoy in some way, or a game. I don't mean enjoyment in the terms of having fun playing it or being entertained necessarily. I mean that a game that people either find entertaining or fun, or in some other way worth of their time. Something, for example, that evokes emotions that people feel were valuable or made them think. It's important for a single person development team, or mostly single person development team, to consider their resources and not go beyond their resources, either mentally or otherwise. It can be very helpful to realize that if there's something that you don't enjoy doing or don't think you can do very well, it's totally okay to ask someone else to help with the project. You don't have to take it as a point of pride that you did things on your own. And the same goes for example, testing the game. For me, I used to be very scared of people stealing my ideas, and I still am to some extent, but I've realized that usually most people are very reliable and trustworthy. And it can help a lot with the game design process if you let yourself show the game to other people, to get other people's opinions, let people test the game in an unfinished state and get their opinions. Sometimes it can hurt a lot. If someone plays the game and they're very critical of it, it can hurt a lot, and it can actually sap your enjoyment of making the game, and that is a danger. I would definitely try to avoid, like if you are personally excited about the game you're making, it can be good to try to avoid too much very critical feedback, so that you don't kind of lose interest just because other people don't enjoy what you're making. But it can still be very important to let people you trust, people whose opinions you appreciate, see the game, get constructive feedback from them, and actually utilize that feedback instead of thinking that, oh, I'm doing this my way, and my way is the only way to do this. Because in the process of developing Baba Is You, there are many things that testers have suggested that have been very positive for the game. And if I had kind of concentrated too much on this, doing things on my own without considering anyone else's opinions, the game would be much worse. So don't crunch, don't overdo it mentally. It's very easy to do that when you do things on your own.